Emma wiped down the counter of the Nebula's Edge diner for the third time that hour, her tired eyes scanning the familiar collection of alien patrons. The space station orbiting Kepler 440 to be attracted all conspirators, diplomats, mercenaries. But today's crowd was different. The entire establishment had gone unnaturally quiet. Through the viewport, 3 massive ships bearing the crimson insignia of the Draconian Empire cast shadows across the docking bay. The Dragon King himself had arrived. Emma had heard the stories. The Draconians were an ancient race, their empire spanning 12 systems, their military unmatched, their ruler sovereign Croth legendary for his ruthlessness. They considered humans little more than clever pets, useful for menial labor but ultimately insignificant in the grand tapestry of the galaxy. The diner's door hissed open. Emma's manager, a nervous Thalaxian named Vorik, practically prostrated himself as the delegation entered. Sovereign Croth moved with the deadly grace of a predator, his scaled crimson hide glinting under the fluorescent lights, his golden eyes sweeping the room with casual disdain. Behind him walked his entourage warriors' advisors, and one figure who caught Emma's attention immediately. The young Draconian moved differently from the others, while the delegation radiated power and confidence. This one walked with his head slightly bowed, his movements careful, almost apologetic. He was smaller, his scales a deeper shade of burgundy, and his eyes, those ancient amber eyes, held something Emma recognized instantly: loneliness. Table for the sovereign, Vorik squeaked, gesturing frantically toward the private section. Emma watched as the delegation settled in, the young Draconian taking a seat at the far end, separated from the others by what felt like more than just physical distance. The other patrons had cleared out, leaving the diner eerily empty save for the royal party. "You," Croth's voice rumbled, pointing a clawed finger at Emma. "Serve us." She approached with a date, her heart hammering but her face professionally calm. Years of waitressing had taught her to hide fear well. As she took orders from the various members of the party, she noticed the young one never spoke. When she reached him, he simply stared at the menu, his claws tracing the text slowly, almost painfully. "Would you like the special?" Emma asked gently. His eyes snapped to hers, surprise flickering across his reptilian features. Around the table, the other Draconians continued their conversation in their native tongue, a series of growls and hisses that the translator implants rendered into something comprehensible about trade routes and territorial disputes. The young one's mouth opened, then closed. His claws gripped the edge of the table. Emma noticed something then: the way his eyes tracked her lips, the slight delay before he looked away, the frustration in the set of his shoulders. She'd seen it before in her younger brother, before his implant surgery. "Can you hear me?" she asked, keeping her voice low. The entire table fell silent. Sovereign Croth's head swiveled toward them, his expression dangerous. "My son requires no special accommodation. Human," the Dragon King said coldly. "He understands perfectly well." But Emma saw the truth in the young one's eyes, the flash of gratitude, the desperate plea for someone, anyone, to finally see him. "Of course, Your Majesty," Emma said, bowing slightly. Then, as she turned toward the kitchen, she did something risky. She signed, using the human sign language her brother had taught her. "I see you." The young Draconian's eyes went wide. Throughout the meal, Emma served them carefully, professionally, but each time she passed the silent prince, she signed simple messages: "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" His responses were tentative at first: a slight nod, a careful shake of his head, but gradually, she saw something shift in his expression. Hope. When Jack, the diner's cook and Emma's closest friend on the station, came out to check on the situation, he immediately noticed the exchange. Jack had served in the Human Defense Fleet before retiring to the quieter life of a space station chef. He'd learned dozens of languages and communication methods during his service. He whispered, sliding beside her near the kitchen entrance. "That's Prince Veros, the Dragon King's youngest son. Rumor is he was born defective, can't speak, can't hear the way Draconians do. They communicate partially through subsonic frequencies. He's considered an embarrassment to the bloodline." Emma's heart clenched. She watched as Sovereign Croth dismissed his son's attempts to participate in the conversation with barely concealed irritation. As the meal concluded and the delegation prepared to leave, Emma made a decision. She approached the table one final time with the bill data pad. "Your Majesty," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "If I may be so bold, your son understood every word I said today, not through hearing, but through reading. Humans have developed extensive methods of communication that don't rely on sound. We could teach silence." Croth's roar shook the windows. You dare suggest that my heir requires human assistance, that our superior species should learn from yours. The warriors reached for their weapons, but Prince Varos suddenly stood, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Every eye turned to him, his hands moved, clumsy and unpracticed, forming signs that Emma recognized. Please, help me. The silence that followed was deafening. Sovereign Croth stared at his son, truly seeing him perhaps for the first time. The mighty Dragon King's expression flickered through rage, confusion, and finally something that might have been shame. You understood her. Croth's voice was barely a whisper. Varos nodded, his hands moving again. Always understood, never could answer. Jack stepped forward then, his military bearing returning. Your Majesty, humans may be young in the galactic community, but we've survived by adapting, by finding new ways to communicate and connect. We don't see challenges as defects, we see them as problems to solve. Your son isn't broken, he just speaks a different language. Croth looked between Emma, Jack, and his son. For a moment, the fate of the entire dino, perhaps the entire station, hung in the balance. Then the Dragon King did something unexpected. He bowed his head. Teach him, Croth said quietly. Teach my son to speak as you do. Emma smiled, approaching Prince Varos with her hand extended. It would be an honor. As Varos carefully took her hand, his amber eyes shining with gratitude, Emma realized something profound. In a galaxy full of advanced civilizations and ancient powers, sometimes the most human thing, seeing someone truly, completely, for who they are, was the most powerful ability of all. The Draconians might rule systems, they might command armies, but humans understood connection, and that, in the end, would change everything.